Welcome to Ruth's Autism Tips. Neuroplasticity, the brain, and all these wonderful things. The yes environment. Why do we want to have an environment where we can mostly say yes? Why do we want to set it up this way? Okay, well, with autism, what does the word mean? And the clue is there. The Greek word for the self is auto. When they invented the car, they called it an automobile because you didn't need a horse to pull it. Auto means the self. Automobile moves by itself. Autoism, selfism, locked within the self. The difficulty being the relationship with the exterior world. Okay, so if I don't really want to communicate and you want me to communicate, and it's a real effort for me, you have to make it worth my while. Imagine if you wanted me to learn Japanese, and every time I was in the classroom and I wanted to move around or check something out, or so you just went, no, stop, and there were like all these rules, and it was just a real pain in the arse to be there. I probably wouldn't be that motivated to learn Japanese. This is very similar for people on the autism spectrum. This is hard for we neurotypicals to understand. We are compulsive communicators. They call our species Homo sapiens sapiens, but that's really a stupid name for us because that just means the thinking ape. But all animals think. Anything that has a brain thinks. There's nothing special about thinking. What we have is this larynx. We have this voice box. We have language. Other animals vocalize, but they don't use language like we do. We're the storytelling ape. So it's very difficult for we neurotypicals to relate to somebody who doesn't talk. We almost end up regarding them as another species. But if we are dealing with somebody who doesn't really want to communicate, we don't want to be saying no all the time. So when I followed Dr. Temple Grandin's advice initially, and I followed my son physically, I was literally following him out into the woods. And immediately he wanted to put stuff in his mouth. And I could say yes, or I could say no. But for the reasons I just gave, I sort of wanted to say yes. But how would I keep him safe? Well, luckily for me, I had spent some time living with hunting and gathering tribes in Africa. Those of you who've read the book that I wrote, The Healing Land, you can download it off Amazon, get it off Amazon, know that I spent some time living with Bushmen, hunting and gathering peoples in the Kalahari of southern Africa. And because of that, I know that more or less any given environment that you can see in planet Earth is about 60 to 70% edible. So this was Central Texas. I got online and I bought a guidebook, and I very quickly learned the most obvious edible plants. And I'll just give you an example. Sitting around me here, we've got some dandelion, super yummy. This is the flower here. I've got stinging nettle. Ouchie if I touch it, but if I pour warm water over it, takes out the sting. Can eat it like spinach, or I can make a lovely soup or a tea. This tree up here, this is a beech tree. In the autumn, has great nuts, and in the early spring, I can eat some of the leaves. There's some blackberry around here as well. I'm trying not to sit on it because it'd be ouchy on my bum. But there's an awful lot of edible stuff. So henbit there, that little blue flower, I can eat that too. It's a type of mint. So my son and I began foraging together, and I couldn't explain toxicity or non-toxicity. I could just say, this is not a daddy leaf. Ooh, ouchie. This is a daddy leaf. Let's eat it. And we would go foraging for daddy leaves. And he totally learned to differentiate them. And to this day, my son knows how to forage for wild foods. He's doing so well. He drives, he works, he's doing amazing. But it starts with trying to figure out how you can make your environment a yes environment. Most of us assume that we need to say no all the time in order to keep somebody safe. But actually, no, what we need is knowledge. And if we have knowledge of our environment, then we can set it up so that we can say yes to most things, keep a kid safe, so that they feel motivated to communicate. Now, finally, how does that prepare them for the real world when they go out there and everyone is saying no all the time? Well, the weird thing is that's counterintuitive. If you can have times when you're not dealing with that stress, when you're not dealing with the stress of bad sensory input or not so nice people saying no to you, your brain gets resilient and is better able to deal with those difficult situations than if it never gets a break from them. And of course we set up special learning environments for neurotypicals, don't we? If you were ever at college, you remember in the library, well, they kept it pretty quiet in the library, and they make the lighting nice, and they make it feel good in there so that you want to go in there and learn. They don't do it with Metallica playing next to you. It might be fun, but you wouldn't do a lot of learning. So if we can set up these special learning environments for neurotypicals, why on earth not for our kids on the spectrum? The YES environment, so important. Okay, for more on this and other learning modules, go to ntls.co. See you there.